Holly Cotton here, and I am joined today with Brawley, who is the founder of Above 500 nonprofit organization, and they are doing a lot of things, not just in Miami, but just in general. But they do have a big event. I posted about it earlier, and I'm going to be a part of it this year. So I'm really excited to actually sit down with Brawley and find out how this came about and just all the great things that they're doing in the community. So welcome, Brawley. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, thank you for having me here.
Okay, so the first thing, anytime I see someone that has a nonprofit, the first thing that
hmm
comes to mind is okay, so what traumatic event caused them to start this, or what happened to them in their life where this became a passion? Because most people that have a nonprofit, it's something that tragically happened or it was something that affected them growing up, and they're like, you know what, I'm about to make a difference. I don't want someone to have to go through what I went through. So tell us about 500 and how this became your mission to start this company.
Okay, well, that's a great question. I would say the way it came about was, see, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, but I had both of my parents, and my parents been together forever. They're still together more than 35 years. They never, cheated on each other. They were like the ideal, perfect parents any child can ever ask for. Although, we struggled, growing up in different places, moving a lot. It didn't matter because as a child, you kind of really don't know that you're struggling, but you know that you're a family and you're sticking together and they're making a way regardless. So for me was how did someone like me who had two amazing parents still get influenced into doing things that I know my parents didn't approve of? So I was getting into things. I was selling drugs. I was trying to be in the streets and do all this stuff. And I came to realize, as I got older, like it's really the influence that I had, like not just the environment, it's everything that I was consuming, whether what I was watching on television, what I was listening to. And as I kind of stepped back and really, analyzed it, I realized that a lot of the stuff in our culture is negative. It's self destructive. And it was something that it bothered me to think like, man, how many other kids? Because I had parents, so I was able to kind of get out and not really get into it. But how many don't have fathers and don't have parents like that? So they get lost really, really deep into the streets and really get to, make big mistakes. And I figured rather than just complain about it, I want to do something positive. I want to start something. I know that as a child, a teenager, we grow up like admiring athletes and artists and entertainers. So I figured why not use them to deliver the message, a positive message. And that's where above 500 came from. So in the sports world, above 500 is your winning percentage. So if you have more wins than losses, you're above 500. So in life, you're going to have some losses. It doesn't mean that you can't be a champion. You have to persevere. It's about perseverance. It's about staying positive, putting out more positive than negative, staying above 500 in that aspect. So that's what the whole message is came about. The whole name is a positive name, and I know something that I always wanted to do was something impact people in a positive manner. So that's basically how we started. We started off doing pep rallies at schools, and I would invite athletes and entertainers and other professionals to come to the school, speak, and just tell their story of transformation, tell the story, what they overcame, where they come from. And I know that just listening to someone's story, it inspires people, and they start believing that, hey, they went through the same thing I went through, and they did it, I can do it too. So that's where the whole inspiration came from.
Oh my God, I love that, Brawley. Oh, that's so cute. No, I'm kidding. No, but I love that. Like, I love that you identified, that's the key word I'm going to say, that you identified that there were decisions that you could have made differently, there were things that you did, and also not blamed your parents. So that's huge because, like you said, you can't blame them. They were there. It was your influence. So I love that you broke that down for us and explained that to us, because that's a perspective that I think a lot of people don't have, where they're just, well, if my mama did this or I had this, but you can have whatever upbringing you in the world, and it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, look how many celebrity kids are, committing suicide or getting involved in stuff, and
Yeah,
you have all the money in the world. Like, you should not be cutting up, and
yeah.
yet you
No, that's
are.
perfect example.
So I'm glad that you said that. Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because anytime you get this idea in your head and you're like, okay, I'm about to do this. This is big. It makes perfect sense in my head. I'm going to make this into something. And then here start those obstacles start coming in. So I know a lot of people are saying maybe they want to start a nonprofit, or how can they give back? So, can you give us an insight into maybe a few challenges that you had once you came up with the idea to actually executing that idea?
Yeah. So you have to stay motivated, and when you have an idea and you really are passionate about the idea, honestly, there should be nothing that's holding you back. You're your own enemy. It's your own procrastination that may hold you back. It's your own, lack of doing whatever it is. Um, I looked at everything as a door and as an opportunity. So if I position myself where no matter who I meet, who I encounter, I tell them my story, I tell them what I do, my passion, even though I may judge them and think they may not do anything for me. Who knows if they know someone that could do something for me? And that's been the case many times where they introduce me to others. So it's about networking, staying motivated, always being a representation of yourself. No matter where you go to the grocery store, and who knows who you can meet there. And that person can have a big impact in what you're trying to do. So I would say, just staying motivated. And that the challenge is overcoming your own fears, overcoming that procrastination, and just keep pushing. Keep going for it. Don't let nothing stop you. If you don't have an answer, look for it. Find someone that'll have an answer. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We're all here to help each other ultimately. So
So I know also whenever you're looking at a nonprofit business compared to a profitable business, there are a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of things that people may not even know about. And so a lot of times people go and they just do LLC or whatever because they're scared of all of those red tape things that are associated with a nonprofit. So can you give us an insight into actually defining what a nonprofit is and how that's different? Because again, like I said, people are like, oh, I want to give back. Oh, I have oh, I want to do something for homeless people. I want to
hmm
do something. And then they start and they get discouraged because they see that there might be these restrictions and maybe they
yeah,
don't know what to do. So can you give us some insight to kind of differentiate a nonprofit from actually just me going out and making my own LLC?
I would encourage people to look at the laws in their state because each state is different. So you may have different requirements in different states. So I can tell you about Florida, so that's what I looked into before I register as a nonprofit. You know, the biggest difference between, because nonprofit operates just like a business, the only difference is a business, you can keep the funding, whatever you earn, you can keep that in your bank account to next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. With nonprofit, whatever you bring in, you have to spend it within that fiscal year. So that's the biggest difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit is, say we do events and we raise $1 million, we have to spend that $1 million, and we have to do it, in a way where it doesn't seem like it's profitable. It doesn't mean that you can't pay yourself or pay others, and there's some nonprofit CEOs that make a lot of money, but they also bring in a lot of money too. So it has to be a balance, it can't seem like you're paying the salary and the money that you're bringing in is covering more of salaries rather than the cause of what you're doing. So that's really it. Look into to the laws, and then when you spend the funding, make sure that it's spending. You're using it for the community. You're using it for giveaways, for whatever it is that your nonprofit is for. There's different sectors too. You have to have a mission statement, and whatever it is that you decide to do, make sure that it aligns with your mission statement. And spend that money. Spend it all.
I love that. I love that. But that's why I asked, because that's not like someone who just is trying to come up with something. That's not something I would automatically assume of us, that, now I have a business, but shoot, I got to spend all the profit in a year. So thank you for, sharing that. And then, like he said, make sure don't quote him. He's only talking about Florida stuff, not so if you're in, if you're in Michigan, don't don't come on this show saying we gave you
Look
wrong
into your
information.
log.
Right, right. So you come up with the idea, you say I'm going to start a nonprofit, you have all of these things put in place, how you're going to start it, get everything together, come up with the name, all of this stuff. So give me one of the happy moments where you were like, holy crap, I'm actually doing this, I see this happening, this is here. Give us one of those feel good moments.
I have a lot of those, honestly. But I would say it's that feeling every time where I have an idea like an event and I want to bring people together, and you kind of don't know what to expect. You don't know, well, how many people are actually going to show up. What if it's empty? What if it's this? You don't know. And but you know that you've been putting in hours. You know, you've been staying up late, really late. You've been waking up early. You've been sending out thousands of emails. You've been contacting people, and but when it's time for the event and you go there, I'll specifically go to last year's Ignite the Culture event. You know, the first year we had an artist, a platinum artist, as the headliner. The second year, which was last year, we decided not to have a headliner. We wanted it just to go off the name Ignite the Culture. And I was a little nervous at first. I was like, man, there's no real headliner. Like, this is this. We're at a bigger venue. You know, this holds a lot more people than the last venue. How is this going to be? I was in the back the entire time, like, handling the check-in, the celebrity stuff, and all this. And they told me, that, hey, I have to come out and give my speech. And I didn't know what to expect when I came out. When I came out and I seen all the stands full, I was like, oh, my God. Like, I did this? Like, what?
They gonna
This is
remember me. They go.
yeah, it was no, it was an amazing feeling. Like the thing, man, this was with no headline. They did this off the strength. Like it was a surprise, and it was very good feeling.
Right, right. And I think those feelings are also important to hold on to because it's so discouraging being an entrepreneur. And like you said, sometimes you get so caught up in just the grind, the grind, the grind, and you lose focus on the outcome and the positivity because sometimes you're just tired and you're like, why am I even doing this? And then you have little snippets and those glimpses that remind you, this is why I'm doing it, this is why I'm
Hmm.
doing it. So what are one of the big things that you guys do? I know you mentioned you have to spend all this money in the year, so what is like one of your big things that you really focus on giving back every year?
So I love to do the pep rallies at the schools because when we do the pep rallies, we bring in like professional athletes, entertainers, and then we give out like school supplies. We give them notebooks and pencils, and they eat those supplies up. Like they're all grabbing them. They're getting all of the supplies. So doing those give backs and back to school drives and things of that nature. That's what I like to focus on outside of us doing the events. Now we do these celebrity games. These are fundraiser events, so we can do the pep rallies because the pep rallies are free to the students in schools. One unique aspect that we're doing now is we partnered up with this organization called Empower Kids, and what we're doing now is we're giving school supplies like we usually do, but now we're using some of our brand that I had trademarked, like for example this shirt where it says "Product of my environment crossed out choices." So we have notebooks, pens, pencils with our brand on there, and we're handing the supplies. It's like a reminder of how powerful your choices are, regardless of where you come from. It's about what you choose to do. But with the Empower kits, these notebooks and stuff, they have a QR code on there. And with the QR code, you can scan it, and it takes you to a virtual world where you have free mental health resources for students. So we're talking about therapists available at all times, life coaches, things of that nature. Because students and mental health right now it's a big deal. We're now just doing a lot of studies on it and see how it really affects the youth and all of that. And there are resources out there, but they're not really aware of them. So us giving them these supplies is kind of, not only we're giving them a reminder, we're giving them access to the resources that are available to them. That way they can ask for the help. You know, they can talk to someone there. It's a really neat project. It goes as far as, if you want to enter the metaverse, there's a metaverse you can enter where there's a therapist you can talk to 24/7 and things of that nature. So yeah, that's one of the factors, unique factors that we got going on, and for this
Well,
year.
and I think that it's also good that you guys are doing that mental health thing, because I think so many people are finding out that they're having mental health issues earlier and earlier, and I think like older people, it was always, you had to bury it, you had to push
Yeah.
it. You couldn't show the world that you had any type of depression,
Right.
or you were having whatever it is. And I say depression because that's the biggest, most widely used mental health term diagnosis, but
Yep.
there's so many other ones as well. But so you just had to get it together, stop crying, go take a nap, whatever.
Hmm.
So there were like, that was how the grandmas dealt with all of that. So I love that you guys are doing that, because I was a school nurse in a high school for a while, like a year and a half. And I tell people all the time, of all the jobs I had, that was the most challenging job I ever had, in being a high school nurse. And there were so many girls that were coming in there, and they were like crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot.
Yeah.
Have you talked to your mom? And they're like, I can't talk to her. Or,
Yeah.
guys would come in there, and they were like, kids were overdosing, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is a lot of stress. And there was no outlet, like there was no social worker. That the social worker was helping them get into colleges. There weren't
Right.
resources that were actually mental health.
Mm.
So I really love that you guys, like you said, that's an initiative and a
Yeah.
resource that you have. And I think for anyone that's listening and they have a company or they have something similar, I'm happy you're sharing that with them, because that's definitely something you should implement into your business as well.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to say, because you've said a few times, ignite the culture, and then you talked about this game, and so
Mm.
you kind of have given us these little snippets
Yeah.
of this. So I know people are like, wait, what's going on? Celebrities, what they got
Yeah.
going on? What is that? What are you saying? So I know they're dying to know. So tell us about Ignite the Culture. Tell us about your huge event that you're having this summer, and give us insight, because again, I know you said it's sports related, but how did you come up with this idea to have a basketball game and other things?
So we've been doing events we're celebrating at 10 years this year as well. So 10 years of community service. So we've been doing events for over 10 years. Thank you. Thank you. So, but the last 2 years, this is going on a third year, we're doing a special event called Ignite the Culture. And where that came from was, I wanted to create something that would change the direction of our culture, like shift it a little bit, because that's why we call it Ignite the Culture. Because when I was listening to the music that's on the radio, I was listening to the same, hey, kill each other, sell drugs, degrade our women, and let's dance to it, right? But the culture was getting worse, because then drill music started becoming very popular. I'm not sure if you're familiar with drill music, but drill music is where gang members are dissing the dead, people that they killed, and they're not just insulting them, they're calling them out by name. And these are young 15, 14-year-old black kids in the hood that were murdered, and they're calling them out by name, and they're insulting them, and they're making music on it, and the radio's playing it, and they're doing it in the concerts, and the fans are singing along, insulting it, and it's almost like demonic to think that you have a crowd of people chanting the name of the dead and they're insulting them, right? And when you look at it from that angle, and it was DJs were playing it, radio's playing, people are not saying nothing about it, and I'm like, we're just letting this become popular. We're letting this become a thing, and rather than just complain about it, I said, well, let me create an event for it. Let me invite all these artists out here, and let me remind them the power that they have when it comes to their music, their influence, how that affects the mental health, how that, just hoping that this could ignite the culture in one way where we at least have more responsibility, give us some kind of balance, do, just change or shift what we're doing because I just really didn't like the direction of that, you know. So that's where that came about. Now this is our third year going on with Ignite the Culture. So far, the past 2 years it's been doubling in size. You know, the first year was like 1,000 in the small little high school gym. The second year 2,000. We packed out that. So now, you know, this year we're expecting 2,000 plus. You know, at this one. So that's where we are now, July 20th. That's where we're going. But we expanded it, so now it's not just a basketball game; it's a whole weekend. So we're doing a panel first, where we're going to talk about mental health and influence, all that it has on our culture. Then we have the celebrity game. Then the following day we have a panel, and then a free football camp for the students, for kids, and then a flag football game. And then the last day, we partnered up with Rap Snacks and Master P for a Black Men's Empowerment panel. You know, so it's like a 3-day event that we got going on, July 20th to the 22nd, here in Miami.
Okay, I love that. I love that. And hey, listen, I was going to um do the celebrity basketball game, but I didn't want to make anyone feel bad. So I'm just going to attend and cheer on because,
Yeah.
I got some skills, but I didn't want nobody to get beat by a girl. So I was like, I'm just going to be in the stands rooting for y'all.
You play for real? You're a
I,
hooper?
so so let me just tell you this. I'm athletic all around. So if you
Mm.
look at my Instagram, I like and I so for me, even as I get older, one, I'm super driven. So I might like the first 1 minute, 2 minutes, I'm getting it together, but I'm going full force. Like I
Mhm.
am a force to be reckoned with. No matter what it is, I'm so competitive. So,
Right.
yes. And then, whenever you kind of have like that where you're just fit and athletic, things come
Yeah.
easier to you. And that's what I tell people, even when I have people that reach out to me on like, oh God, I want to get back in shape. I'm like, okay, once you're in shape, stay in shape. Stay in shape,
Yeah.
because it just helps you be able to do that and you can maneuver and you don't have to keep falling off and starting over. So, anyway, that's my rendition on
Mhm.
importance of being fit.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I digress. Back to you. Um,
Yeah.
so the last question I kind of just want to have before we talk about, how people can support you and all of that stuff is I know that being a business owner, being an entrepreneur is very demanding. I know I have 32 jobs myself. So, having all these businesses, having all these hats, it's really it seems like we just sort of adapt to it because it's our life now, but with that comes a lot of sacrifices as well. And anytime I highlight someone and I talk about all the great things that they're doing, I also like to be transparent about the sacrifices, the losses, the things that we could have done differently. So when you look back on, like you said, 10 years ago, you started this is your baby, you've grown. So when you think about it, can you give us some insight into some of the sacrifices that you feel like you've made, and then also anything that you think you would have done differently?
Yes. So I'm in therapy, right? And so I see my therapist once a week for my own mental health. And one thing that always stood out was the balance. Something that was a challenge for me was having that balance between work and personal life because I would submerge myself in work where everything was work related. Even my friends, quote unquote friends and relationship with friends is like, how can we do business and work? Like everything was work to the point where my own son is like, Dad, you work too much. Can you play with me? It's like, oh my God, okay. I have to balance. So I would, I guess one of the things that looking back would incorporating more of that balance, work and life balance, where I'm able to balance a lot better than what I have been before. Yeah, I would say that's one of the main things. Other than that, I mean, there's always going to be challenges. I feel like the more we we read on into things, and just feed ourselves with whatever it is that whatever field we're in. I feel like we'll be able to avoid certain mistakes. Some of my mistakes were, this is the balance where balance comes in, because some of my mistakes were not treating certain situation as business, because I know this person for a long time, so I'm not treating it as business. I'm not getting paperwork done. I'm not getting contracts in place, and that's happened to me where I know someone for a while. We didn't have formal contracts, and now they're running off with my contacts, trying to do the same thing and compete with me. So, and I brought them into my situation. So it's part of it is just lessons, and you just gotta adapt and try to move as smart as you can. But I would say those are the biggest challenges that I've had. Yeah.
Well, I can definitely pick up on just hearing your story that you are someone with a huge heart. And I know I'm a nurturer and a giver as well. So it's like we always hope that someone is like us. And we just assume that they are going to handle things the way that we would. Like I'm loyal to a fault.
Right.
When you and me, like you part of the team, I think you're really part of the team, and it's hard, and it's almost like, wow, the betrayal really will hit you in
Yeah.
the gut, because you can't fathom some of the things that people do or how people handle certain situations, because you're not that way.
Right.
So I'm glad you did bring that up, because I think that's a huge thing, especially for us having this younger generation that looks to be entrepreneurs, looks to be business owners. Like they like their mindset now is like, I'm not working for somebody else, I'm working for myself. But we're giving you insight into, yeah, that's great, but now don't forget about this.
Right.
And also the sacrifice thing too. I always tell people, I was actually on a show recently myself where I was being interviewed, and they asked me about the sacrifice, and I was like, whenever you're in grind mode, sometimes you forget, especially being a parent. And I mean, and my kids are older. I'm not going to say how old, because then that makes me look old. But anyway, and I'm too fine to have kids that old. So, but they, but I remember my daughter, sitting on the end of my bed, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're still working," and I'm like, "I got to edit this, or I got to do this." Like, they don't see the vision. They just see you at, even now, like, I'm like, I wasn't going to Billboard in Times Square. Like, I'm not just regular mom
Right.
up in here. But with them, they like, I don't care. Like,
Right.
what you gonna do about dinner? Like, what you mean you got to go to work? You traveling again? Like, what is up? So I'm glad you did talk about that. And then also, I kudos to you for giving us an insight into that as well, about mental health. I feel like I'm the therapist because I'm a life coach. So I feel like I'm the therapist for my friends and people in my circle. And I had to come to the conclusion where I'm like, hey, I can't absorb that today. Like, you're taking a toll on my mental health. I get it. You can call me and I'm a free therapist, but you're going to have to outsource that to someone else, because now I've absorbed all of that negativity in my life. And now I'm like, back to here. So that's really good, because as a giver, and as, like you said, doing all this stuff in the community, and you're worried about everyone else, but what happens to your mental health? Who's taking care of you? So that's really good. I'm glad. See, look at you. Grew you. We call it the growth journey. Look at you on your growth journey and stuff. I love it. Okay, so drop all of any social medias, website information. I know we talked about the event, how people can support the event, and then also for anyone who can't attend this year, because it is next month, but anyone who can't go or support, don't worry, because they're a nonprofit, so you can still support even if not in person. So
right.
Drop all of that information.
Yeah. So the name of the foundation is Above 500. So Above 500 is everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even above500.org. And if you want to reach our foundation, if you want to make a donation, Above 500 is the place. If you want information on our event specifically, you can go to ignitetheculture.org, and you'll be able to find information on there. And then I don't have my own personal website yet, but I will. I'll definitely eventually have something. I operate on my Instagram right now, which is Brawley's Conscious, and you can reach me there too. But any of these places, you can support us. There's links everywhere. There's donation buttons, and you can always send me a message, DM me, or email. All that's on our site as well.
Okay, so spell it out because so it streams audio and video. So for anyone who's in their car listening to the audio right now, spell out the website and your social media handle as well. Because some people, they like to pay attention and read the podcast notes.
So above 500 is ABOVE500.org. So above and then the number is 500.org. Ignite the Culture is exactly how it's spelled. Ignite the Culture. No fancy the, just THE.org. And then Brawley's Conscious is my first name is BRAWLEY, and then Conscious, but not the one with the IOUS. It's CON and then Science, SCIENCE. Brawley's Conscious.
See, that's why I told you to spell it out because they're gonna look up Ignite the Culture.
Right.
They're gonna look up. They're gonna type in FIVEFHUN. So that's why I was like, always spell it, because when you're driving or whatever, sometimes you may not read the notes, or you just, when it's audio, it's totally different because you have to absorb it. So, all right. So great. So thank you so much. I love hearing your story. Super excited to be a part of the event this year. Can't wait. Yes. And I got to get my bikini body together because I'm gonna be in Miami now. You motivated me to start working on my 6-pack. So.
Yeah, let's go.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise. I'm excited. I'm happy to have you there, and can't wait for it.
Okay.